Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Devil, are you doing this fine day? I am D-Mob happy. As somebody, who was it? I think it's Dan Cullen actually pointed out. This is the final week for 2 weeks. Yes, it is. Just this show and four more just like it, and then I'm jetting off to Italy, and then on to the Sun Princess, my floating home for 10 days or so. Looking forward to it enormously. We'll come back to that a bit later on. But yeah, we've got four more shows after today, and then I'm away for 2 weeks. Gary Muirhead is here as well. Morning, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What do we got? Dan says you'll need to update your intro again. Just a very quick reminder. Today's show is number 971. 29 more shows till we celebrate the 1000th show. In five and a half years or thereabouts. Started this show back in February, I think, February 2021 or thereabouts. 2020, 2021, I think. So yeah, it's been going a while. It has been going a while. I do need to apologise to Andy Thornton. Morning, Andy. I got your message, but I got your message out of hours, so I will catch up with you a bit later today, if that's okay. Ken Hatcher is here as well, and he's got the sunshine back. Yeah, we've got it back as well. Typical British weather. Crappy weather all the entire weekend. Come Monday morning when we're all back at work, sun comes out. Awesome. And Dan saying, yes, we will need to update our intro again. We're updating pretty much everything. So the intro, the news intro, I mean, I think the question of the day graphic will probably stay the same as it is. We'll have a new theme tune. Everything will change. So come the 1000th show, which I reckon will be sometime around about the middle of September. We normally do somewhere between 20 and 22 shows a month. We're at 971 today. By the time I leave, it'll be 975. I'll come back. I think I'm back on about the 10th, 11th, something like that of August, which means I've got about another dozen or so shows for the month, which will take us to 980, and then yeah, as I say, middle to the end of September, we will be going for a whole new look, and I've got other things in mind as well. I'll tell you about it when I get back. One of the reasons I'm looking forward to going away is to actually the ability to take a big step back and really think about where I need not just this show but the other stuff that we're doing to go as well. And yeah, looking forward to actually sitting down with a notepad and pen and just figuring out where we want to go. One of the things that I am kicking around, because it will involve you, I'll tell you now, is I've been promising, and I do apologize for this, and Jim, I'm apologizing specifically to you because you were going to be my first victim. We did talk for some time about the notion of actually having you guys on the show, individually or separately or together. I think that's long overdue, and I wonder if we might start a regular, maybe even a monthly show, where we all get together and I'll draw up in advance. I'll draw up a list of potential discussion points, and between us, one or two of us, 10 of us, whatever, we'll just congregate online and we'll just talk it out until we think we've beaten it to death. That's one of the things I have in mind. So keep an eye out for that. Dan saying can't wait as well. Gary, thought I was going to be made redundant. No, you don't get off the hook that easily. You've got to come up with about another 220 odd new questions of the day. I mean, no pressure. In actual fact, today's isn't one of yours, but most of them are. So keep it up. Yvonne Walton, good morning, Yvonne. Says, good morning, Mark. Your plans sound exciting. Yeah, well, I think they will sound a whole lot more exciting when I get an opportunity to take a step back and actually flesh them out. I think I told you I had an hour and a half online with a friend of mine the other day who was really, I mean, he's fired me up, but he sort of set me in the right direction. And I'm looking forward to actually sitting down and fleshing that out and making that all happen. Dan says that'd be a great idea. What about a Saturday for that? Funnily enough, Dan, this is a weird thing. Okay, so Dan, I feel your pain, and I promise you I do. I am now. I've all but abandoned. I mean, I've never been much on Facebook anyway, so I've kind of dropped that anyway. I've spent less and less time on Instagram, even though we're broadcasting to Instagram now. I update it a couple of times a day, but I don't really look at it. Twitter, I've had a falling out with. I don't see the point of Twitter anymore. So I'm spending a lot of my time over on Substack, where I run my Demolition Insider website. One of the things that Substack allows you to do is to produce a live show, not dissimilar to this. And there are several people that I watch during the week, including one by an American journalist called Jim Acosta. Used to be with CNN, I think, if memory serves me correctly. He broadcasts around about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, UK time. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I'm sat there on a Sunday thinking, could do with something. So Dan, I feel your pain. I think this I wouldn't say I spoil you, because it's certainly not the case. But I think when you get into the habit of having this show 5 days a week, then the weekend rolls around. It's like, what should I do now? So I do wonder if maybe once a month we'll draw up a hit list, and some of it, to my mind, would be looking at specific issues, specific news stories, but I think some of it could be just general chit chat. I think we could make that happen. Jim Turner says, sounds good, Mark. I think a one-to-one interview style might be less hectic and make for a clearer content. I think you're right. But I don't think it's an either or. I think it's as well as. Or an evening show. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, quite possibly. Apparently Facebook is playing up. Funnily enough, bear with me a second. I've just had a notification. No, it's okay. I've had a notification that Facebook at my end is working okay. So there you are. I'd say Nigel and a few others. One of the things that I mean, this show actually allows us to broadcast. I'm fairly sure the number is about 20 people. I mean, the screen gets awfully crowded with 20 people on it. Maybe half a dozen would be a more sensible option. But, we could invite quite a lot of people. So, I mean, even if you want to invite some of your friends along, or friends or colleagues, and get them to take part, we could accommodate. We can make all of that happen. Our friend Haribo Starmix can't watch today because he's in school, one of our younger viewers. But good morning to you. Enjoy school. Stay in school and don't do drugs. You listen to your olders and your betters. Right, okay, shall we crack on? I think we probably should. Without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Literally press the button and realize that was last week's question of the day. So here's today's. I'll come back to that in just a moment. The proper one, don't ignore that one about words or phrases. Nonsense. Forgot to change it. In fact, I thought I had changed it, but I clearly hadn't. It is Monday, the 21st of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, and soon to be the Lord of the High Seas. In a better week. In today's show, Komatsu's Gentle Giants. We're going to get the lowdown on one of the newest Bobcat mini excavators. Bell unveils its latest grader, and Develon tech uncovered. Plus, in my morning monologue today, and this was inspired by last Friday's chat, and I think specifically by Dr. Yvonne Waterman, who asked a question about who are the visionaries of the demolition industry. And just to prove that these shows are not just a throwaway thing, I finished the show, and that question stuck with me. So much so that I thought, I'm going to put pen to paper on this. I say pen, I mean computer. I say paper, I mean the screen, but you get the idea. So there you are. Yes, that will be the morning monologue. Before we move any further on, let me see this. Steve Williamson is here saying morning all, and he has responded to our question of the day, the proper question of the day, which I'll remind you of now, and then I'll talk about it in just a moment. 1 second after this. Yeah, this time next week, I'll be heading for Italy and the beginning of my cruise around the Med. Obviously, looking forward to, well, a bit of sunshine, some downtime, some reading time, and some time with Mrs. Demolition News. Not sure she's looking forward to that bit quite as much as I am, but there you are. But also, obviously, looking forward to the food we're going to enjoy on our travels, because we're taking in Italy, France, and Spain as well, and Sicily as well. So today's question is very much food related, and it is this: what is your favorite cheese? What is your favorite cheese? Now, I'd like to state for the record, if you are a person that does not do cheese, not sure we can be friends. Just saying. I'll do my best to remain level-headed about it, but I'm not sure we can be friends. Now, speaking of myself, love a bit of good old English cheddar, love a bit of Stilton, like Camembert when it's so ripe that it's practically a liquid, but my personal favourite, if I could have just one cheese for the rest of my life, Gorgonzola, please. Gorgonzola all day long, smelly and runny and delightful. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson has said, mature cheddar, Stilton cheese, only melted. See, I'm a bit of a sucker for a Stilton. You know, you get the cheese balls, not necessarily in a restaurant, although if I'm let loose with one of those, I would certainly do that. But if there's a cheese ball in the house, which sometimes there is, don't put the Stilton near me, because it will vanish. It will evaporate there and then. Gary Muirhead, sticking to his roots, says Scottish cheddar or a baked camembert. Baked camembert, yeah, big lump of bread and a baked camembert. Steve enjoying the hat. I think I know somebody with one very similar to this. Just saying. John Doherty says mature cheddar, and he's not wrong. A mature cheddar. You know that cheddar is so mature that you can't slice the stuff. You put a knife in it, it just crumbles. Oh yes, absolutely. And Steve saying good choice. Yeah, Gorgonzola. I think I mentioned it when I was in Italy last on the EDA study tour. I was actually having dinner with Roberto. Good morning, Bobo. Roberto Panseri, and he was showing me the Italian way with polenta and gorgonzola. Polenta on top of gorgonzola, mix it all up. Bosh! Now that's some fine eating there. Gary Bishop, no, not Gary Bishop. Freudian slip. Gary Muirhead said, "Who likes Stinky Bishop?" I've never met the man, but yes, I'd eat that all day long. Yvonne Waterman says, "Old Amsterdam." I've eaten Old Amsterdam, and I like the taste. I'm just not a fan of the texture. It's a bit like chalk. No, chalk is, Gary, Scottish tablet. You know how that feels in your mouth? Old Amsterdam, very similar in my experience. Dan saying Galty cheese, Irish, and man, it's delicious. I'm going to look that up. Look that up, I am. Jim says, now that's a very tough question, as it's a broad church. They all have their uses, but probably a nice, hard, dry Stilton, especially the rind, as that's the best bit. I must admit, like cooking with the rind. Like cooking with the rind. You know where you I don't know, you've done maybe a pasta or something like that, and you bung the rind in there just to extract all of that goodness. Yeah, love all that. Steve saying smoked goat cheese is amazing too. I have a mate that smokes it himself. Do you know, I love smoked cheese. I love goat's cheese. Never had smoked goat cheese. Steve says, I'm wearing the cap from you today. Wow, there you are. There you are. That's how these things work. We're passing around the love, we are. Right, okay, people, it is time to crack on. I'll be right back after this with the gentle giants of Komatsu. Yeah, but in some ways, we're kind of taking a step back to Balmer. Remember Balmer? About 1 million years ago? So much has happened since Balmer. But yes, it was a good opportunity to catch all of the Komatsu giants in a single place. And they've recapped it all in a video. And I'm going to play it for you right now.
Good morning, everybody. We are super excited here at the Bauma 2025 to show our lineup of nice, big, large quarry machines. So building on more than 100 years of experience, we really took the customer's advice serious into improving our machines and making sure we get more customer experience. With our HD605 here, we didn't want to touch the smooth ride that it has been providing our customers for generations. So we're really focused on increasing that user experience, increasing the electronic features, increasing the power. We have a hill start assist, we have a cruise control function. So really focusing on improving the experience for the operators inside the cab. Our PC950 here is our newest 95-ton excavator. This is supposed to be the successor of our PC800, but actually it's in a league of its own. It's a completely new machine. Again, building on that experience, building on that feedback of our customers. So here we have our newest baby in the quarry machines. And yes, it's fitted with a massive 6.5 cubic meter bucket. So it really matches very well with our HD605. And last but not least in our lineup of quarry machines here in our demo ground, we proudly present the WA700, a new addition to the family. We have been absent for 15 years, but this nice baby, it perfectly matches with our 605 truck that I showed earlier. And it's focusing on the safety, on the user experience, full LED lights, all the lockouts that you want. This machine is ready to rock the quarry world, and we are proudly seeing this machine being sold already. That's it for our big machines. Come and visit us at the Bauma for the remaining days, or you can find all the information you want on our website. Thank you.
Steve, who would know about these things, says it was surprising how quiet that 950 was. Totally agree. It's surprising how quiet all of those machines were, actually. Dan saying, one thing you never see is manufacturers never increase the cab size. I think that's a bit of a sweeping generalization. I think they do sometimes, but obviously it needs to sit within the realms. I think a lot of the increase in space is actually taken care of inside, moving things around and that sort of thing. And Steve, on the same sort of line, says the comfort in those shovels better than sitting in your car. I totally agree. Lots more space. Speaking of Steve, he is asking you the question: are you coming to the Black Isle show, Gary? Gary, are you going to the Black Isle show? Good morning to Enda O'Doherty, who's just joined us over on Instagram. And Andy Thornton says parmesan on cannelloni, parmesan on pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. Can't be trusted with parmesan either. One of the places that we ate a couple of times when I was last in Bergamo, it's not so much a starter. You know when you that's not a starter and not an amuse-bouche. Hark at me. It's not a starter, not an amuse-bouche, but there's a restaurant that it's opposite the hotel where we regularly stay, the Excelsior in Bergamo. And you sit down and you order your drinks or whatever it might be, and they come up with a piece of black slate. And on the piece of black slate is a nugget about yay big of mature parmesan for you to nibble on. More restaurants should do that. Nuggets of parmesan are the way forward. And speaking of cheese, which bizarrely we are, Gary Muirhead says, what's the one they put under a hot grill and they scrape it off with onto whatever you like? That would be raclette, I would guess. Raclette is that's the Swiss one, right? I think that's the one they use for that. Gary says, no, Stevie, far too busy on this job right now and can't get the time off. Damn shame. And Dan is saying, when is the show? Yeah, when is the show? When is the Black Isle show? I mean, it's a bit too far for me to travel, but yeah, Dan may be up for it. Let us know. Let us know in the chat. We're going to be right back in just a moment with a bit of a look under the hood of one of the new Bobcat mini excavators. Back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, Bobcat. We featured these a couple of times, actually. We showed you them in action. We showed you, what else did we do? There was another one. I can't actually remember what the other one was, but I know we featured them a couple of times. But this is a proper look under the hood of one of the new R2 series mini excavators from the mighty Bobcat.
Hello, I'm pleased to introduce to you the largest R2 series excavator in our range, the new E88. Following the introduction of the first R2 series excavators in the 4 to 6 ton category, the E88 is an addition to the range, keeping a number of the comfort, performance, durability features and adding many more. So, let's take a closer look. Bobcat excavators have always been known for high productivity, and the new E88 is no different. Fast cycle times, high digging forces, and superior front and side stability enable you to leverage the machine's potential to the maximum. The E88 is equipped with the proven 2.4-liter Bobcat engine, providing 65 horsepower with improved performance characteristics. To maximize the machine's all-around stability, we've engineered all of its parts to optimize weight distribution. On top of that, compared to the previous generation, we've added dual flange rollers and we've extended the track length to deliver the best results. The new E88 is designed for versatility, so you don't need to limit your work to digging with the bucket. The machine can be equipped with up to 5 auxiliary lines. In combination with Bobcat's award-winning advanced selectable auxiliary controls, you can easily work with the most advanced attachments. This allows you to adjust the control pattern as well as the speed of each function. So you simply plug on the clamshell bucket, flail mower, or tilt rotator and start working. Although it's the largest of our excavator range, the E88 is still compact and easily transportable. With its 2.2 meter width and overall height of just over 2.5 meters, the machine can be transported on a container truck. Even night and darkness cannot limit the productivity with the E88. The powerful LED lights illuminate your work in all lighting conditions. Like all of our R and R2 series excavators, the E88 has been built around the operator. It offers a spacious cab with a comfortable seat with headrest, independent seat and joystick adjustments, or automatic heating with air conditioning. This amazing machine keeps you comfortable all day long so you can focus on your job. On top of that, the E88 allows you to be fully aware of your worksite surroundings at all times. The large windows, rear view camera provide great visibility, adding to your work safety and peace of mind. Thanks to the ergonomics of the interior and the intuitive controls, even less experienced operators find the machine very easy to operate. To ensure reliability, the E88 contains a number of proven components. The engine, joysticks, and even the cab will be familiar to you from other Bobcat machines. Millions of hours on test and job sites around the world give you peace of mind. Designed for maximum durability, the E88's bore group is well protected, robust, and made with cast parts. And thanks to the large covers and cleverly positioned service points, you can easily perform regular maintenance from the ground, even on a machine of this size. Ladies and gentlemen, please greet the new Bobcat E88 R2 series, a machine that can handle every job with power and precision.
I think Ken and I were missing at the same time. He says back, just got it going. I'm not sure what it was that was not going. I had a knock at the door while all that was going on, so I've been away as well. Enda O'Doherty just said, looks like a versatile piece of equipment. I totally agree. Steve saying, great to hear tilt rotators being mentioned in these brand videos. I agree with that as well. Andy Darvell is with us as well. He missed the beginning of the show because he's striking a shutter off a bridge, but not a problem. You're very welcome nonetheless. Where are we? What else have we got? I know we've got a couple of comments on all things related to Bobcat. Dan saying they're great pieces of kit. I agree with that one point. OG Soup Guy says we're going mainstream with this one. Not sure what that means, but good morning to you. Andy Darvell said, and he's one of two people say this, I think. Has anyone on here operated a Bobcat 360? I don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh, which surprises me enormously because there's plenty of them about. And on the same sort of subject, Bobcat is the one machine brand I've never really operated much. Bobcat, if you're paying attention, please, Andy Develon, Steve Williamson, and anybody else. Some very good operators here. They need some time on the levers. Gary Muirhead going to all things cheese related. Scottish buffalo mozzarella. Apparently Scotland now has a farmer in Fife producing some amazing buffalo cheese. Now, while we're talking about buffalo cheese, I like a buffalo mozzarella, but burrata. Oh, burrata. You know, the kind of the wettest of the wet mozzarella. You bite into it and you get a glass of milk in your mouth. Well, that's a fantastic thing. Love all of that. John Doherty says it's a white Doosan. He's not wrong, you know. Bobcat was a Doosan, absolutely. And unless they are still all part of the same organization. Yeah, Develon, Bobcat are obviously related. Only some can relate, says Steve Williamson. There's a 16-ton roller next to me, spreading material. My God, the sound of the cab. To me, it was never, well, it is the sound. No question it is the sound. But the feeling. Do you remember going to see an asphalt compactor once? And we'd put a camera on a tripod and we were filming this thing going up and down, and it was absolutely fine. And then the operator turned on the vibration and the camera was going like this. Unusable footage. Jim Turner says Bobcat mini diggers used to be basic, not particularly good, but they seem on track now. I think seriously, go if you get an opportunity, you know, get along to a Plant Works or something like that. Go and have a look at the machines on offer from Bobcat. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. They are a match for anything in the mini excavator market. I think they're going their own way now. Bobcat. They left Doosan. I don't believe so. I thought that was all part of the same. I know Hyundai and HD. Hyundai Infracore, or whatever it was called, they're kind of forging their own path. Develon, I think, are forging their own path, but I thought the Develon bit and Bobcat were still inextricably linked. I don't know. I'll Ken, you keep your finger on the pulse. You could well be right. Steve says the drone goes right through you. Yeah, the drone of a big old compactor. Bobcat, very stable and pretty powerful. I would agree with that, and pretty much up to date. I mean, I know Steve mentioned being GPS ready and tilt rotator ready. They absolutely are. They are. Listen, they are a match for anything in the mini excavator market right now. Take my word for it. You can take that to the bank. The bank will probably kick you out, but you can take it to the bank nonetheless. We're going to be back in just a moment with Ben.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, if you were watching my Instagram feed, I'm fairly sure it was. I actually took a photograph of the new Bell grader while I was at Balmer a few months ago, but they've actually hosted a standalone launch for it now, and it looks like this.
Welcome everyone. I just want to extend a warm welcome to all our customers this afternoon. So you might ask your question is, why did Bell design a grader? Why a grader out of all the different earth moving machines around? We considered the fact that where our ADT has done exceptionally well all over the world, there's that advantage of leaning onto a dealer network that's very strong in various countries. And we believe we've designed the same core strengths into the grader.
Power, very powerful. Like how it's able to just turn in such a short distance.
This will give you about 7.2 meters of a turning cycle when you're adding your leaning, your articulation, and your steering together.
Oh, this is very nice, man. I'm very impressed with this. This is a very good machine.
Love it. John Doherty is leaving us. Got to get back to it. Thank you for a great show. You're welcome, John. We're here. Well, we're here every day apart from the 2 weeks after this one because I'm going on holiday. But thank you very much indeed. Gary makes a good point. We seem to associate Bobcat being just a skid steer and not a range of other equipment. I think that's actually quite common in this sector, isn't it? I think about JCB. If I said to you, I saw a JCB, I think most people would think backhoe loader. You think about everything else that JCB make. Yeah, I do think we pigeonhole people a bit too much. Let's have a look. Steve says we are now using Lynch Hire Company up here now. First one came up last week. Driver drives up from down south to stay up here for a week. So much work, not enough plant and men up here. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Pleased to hear that. And Steve also says, love to have a go on one of those. The more buttons and rollers, the better for me. Yeah, it must also feel like drifting. You know, the way that you're sat here and the machine's kind of off to one side. Dan saying, oh, that grader looks very interesting. Andy Darvell says, that's a type of machine I would love to operate. Graders look awesome and definitely coming back big time onto larger sites. Good to hear. Ken Hatcher is saying, Doosan is Bobcat still. Thought it was. Peter McKenna is back in our midst, watching once. I mean, he watches all over the place, but he is now back via LinkedIn. Good morning, Peter. How's the HGV world going? How's it treating you? And Dan Cullen saying, oh, that's cool. I agree 100%. I think we've got one more film for you. Excuse me. Yes, we do. We're talking Develon. Funnily enough, we've been talking about Doosan already. We're going to be talking Develon in just a moment. What have we got there? Dan says he's updated the picture on his profile. Is that actually you or is that an AI of you, Dan? It's too small for me to tell, to be perfectly honest, but looks good though. Good to see. I wish everybody had their faces on these things. I think it would make a lot more interesting. Yes, we've got one more thing to show you and it will be after this. Yeah, we've mentioned Develon or Doosan several times today. We're going to be showing you not just the machines themselves, but some of the stuff that's on those machines for the next 1 minute and 55 seconds. Enjoy.
Develon's digital key provides an innovative feature that allows you to remotely start the equipment and preset the temperature without a physical key. Previously, the equipment had to be started manually, and preheating or seasonal temperature adjustments caused delays in starting work. With the digital key, you can remotely set the engine to preheat and cabin temperature from anywhere, helping keep the equipment in optimal condition before arriving at the site. This allows you to immediately focus on work, increasing efficiency. There's no need to wait. You can start work right away. Develon's innovative joystick customization system supports not only travel lever control, but also joystick steer and thumb wheel steer, providing the optimal control method for any work environment. Previously, when switching between tasks and movement, alternating between the travel lever and joystick was inefficient and led to operator fatigue. With Develon's customized joystick system, you can work with your preferred mode, whether it's lever steering or thumb wheel steering, ensuring precise and comfortable control without changing hand position. This increases efficiency, reduces fatigue during repetitive tasks, and significantly enhances work speed. Experience Develon's smart control system and elevate both the speed and convenience of your operations. Develon maximizes work efficiency and prepares you in advance for the upcoming job site. With Develon, achieve the next convenience in your work.
Love it when a video actually triggers some comment. What do we got here? Dan Cullen says, what about your checks? Funnily enough, Peter McKenna says exactly the same thing. So doing away with pre-start checks, I'm sure they still exist, but I wonder how they're accommodated. Always thought that, yeah, I mean, surely that's the sort of thing that you should have. Bearing in mind that your phone can now speak to your machine, wouldn't that be just a great way of doing it? You have to actually go through the pre-start check and trigger something on your phone, or it's triggered automatically to say that you've done it. And then you've got a complete record. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Steve enjoying that as well. And Peter McKenna is going to be speaking later today to Jacqueline O'Donovan, OBE, she of the Waste Company. Used to have Jacqueline's stuff on Demolition News fairly regularly, but unfortunately she decided to become an occasional contributor, I think, to the Worthing Advertiser. At which point I kind of lost interest. Thought she had better taste than that, but maybe she's rediscovered her taste because she's going to be speaking to Peter McKenna. No AI on my profile picture. I really am that bald, Andy. I know the feeling. Not a problem at all. It's not a bald head. It's the solar panel that drives the sex machine, unquestionably. I'm not sure who would ever believe that, but listen, it's worth a try. Gary says, had sticks here on a 30-ton case, though the steel-wrist joystick controller, it was fantastic. Like to see that. And Dan says she is some lady and knows her stuff. No, she certainly does. You don't go and get an OBE for nothing. That's not strictly true. There's a lot of people who've got an OBE for absolutely nothing, but not in this instance. So good luck with that, Peter. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. I'll remind you once again, there's only 4 more shows before I am going for 2 weeks. So if you're that way inclined, you need to suck up as much of this goodness as you possibly can, because you're going to be bereft for 2 weeks. I am planning to leave some stuff behind to drop while I'm away. Not entirely sure how that's going to work, but watch this space. Anyway, if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after. The demolition industry of today stands on the shoulders of giants, and those shoulders belonged to the industry's forebears. These were great men that shaped the sector through vision, determination, and pure force of will. All that the industry is today can be traced back to the foresight and wisdom of those leaders of the past. They looked beyond the now. They looked beyond the next project, and they looked beyond the next paycheck. They worked not just for themselves, but for a greater good, a bigger ideal. And while they were unquestionably highly competitive, they sought unity rather than division. They recognized that a rising tide lifts all boats, and in doing so, they built the foundations upon which the demolition industry of today now stands. I was asked last week during one of my Breakfast Show live streams who I believe to be the demolition visionaries of today. And to be honest, the question initially stumped me. But after a lot of thought, I eventually came up with the names of 4 demolition professionals that I believe to be blessed with the foresight required to be called a visionary. But as their names were coming out of my mouth, I realised that 2 of the 4 were actually in the throes of retirement. Admittedly, mine was not a comprehensive list. The question had caught me on the back foot. But half of the men I consider to be present-day visionaries are actually heading, reluctantly and regrettably, for the exit. The 2 that remain from my initial list are the incumbent president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers, Adrian McLean, and the immediate past president of the European Demolition Association, Stefano Panseri. Now, I will admit, I've thought of a few more since, but 2 more across a global industry that employs thousands of men and women. That's surely a damning statistic. And it's a deeply worrying statistic too, because the global demolition industry requires vision and foresight now, perhaps more than any time in its history. Who, for example, has the vision to realise that even the word demolition now carries negative connotations? That despite the sector leading the way towards a circular economy, the word demolition is now inextricably linked to the loss of embodied carbon. Who has the vision to realise that our long-standing failure to attract new talent into the industry has made our talent pool ever more narrow and ever more shallow? That our failure to plug the skills gap will one day force us to accept that we will need to adopt some kind of automation or autonomy. That we will need to adopt some kind of one more time. That our failure to plug the skills gap will one day force us to accept that we will need to adopt some kind of automation or autonomy if we are to retain workloads. Who has the vision to realise that the days of diesel fuel are numbered, and that the industry's future lies in electric or hydrogen-fueled machines? Who is seeking to understand the practical and logistical implications of such a switch? Who has the vision to recognise that the industry's mostly white, mostly male workforce is already a relic? That the racism and misogyny that has been tolerated for so long are actually holding the industry back while doing enormous damage to the sector's public reputation? Who has the vision to realise that mental health awareness and the provision of mental health first aiders are a sticking plaster on a festering and growing wound? A wound that can be treated only with some major shifts in working practices and not by posters on site and the occasional toolbox talk. Who has a vision to recognise that the damage done by the Competition and Markets Authority investigation didn't end with the £60 million in fines handed down? That the industry's reputation is tarnished and that no one is attempting to restore its sheen? That in the eyes of the public, the media, and many within the construction industry, demolition is now coloured by corruption? Where once there was vision and loudly spoken ambition, there's now a blindness and a deafening silence. Leadership has been eroded, and where the industry was once proactive, it's now reactive. We no longer shape our industry, we've surrendered being shaped by others. In many ways, the demolition industry of today is reminiscent of family companies passed down through generations. It was shaped originally by men with vision, with foresight, and with fierce determination. That industry was inherited by some that built upon that legacy and maybe expanded it. But it's now been handed to individuals that have been spoiled, that are content to live off past glories and bask in the reflected glories of their forebears. It sometimes feels like the last days of a once great empire. The edifices are crumbling and the cracks are showing. We desperately need a visionary new leader, dozens of them ideally, to take us into the new age. Sorry about stumbling over my words there. It's a Monday. What can I do? My tongue is still on the weekend. I can only apologise. There we are. That's the wrong button. Let's have a look at this. Did you hear how the Worthing advertiser got on in court? I didn't. No, I didn't. I'm sure somebody will tell me at some point. To be honest, I've stopped looking, if I'm being completely honest, and I'm at the point now. It's I'm trying to think of a. It's like Liverpool, the football team, who are already champions of the UK or champions of England. It's like them worrying about the latest score from Dagenham and Redbridge. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But if I do hear anything, I will let you know. Maybe a loose wire or two. I think more than two, I would suggest. But then Peter actually goes on to say, when Mark Anthony has a gripe, he doesn't sugarcoat it. It's full throttle with the morning monologue. Like it or not, he says what many are thinking. No holding back, just raw industry truth. Yeah, and listen, there are a good many that don't like it. There are a good many that do like it. We picked up a couple of new paid subscribers this morning over on Demolition Insider because we have been talking about. You remember me talking about the this asbestos industry whistleblower that is causing ructions, within the industry. He vanished. He vanished on Saturday. I thought I'd have a quick look at LinkedIn, see what he was saying now, and who he was out to upset and reveal and everything else. Vanished. He was gone. His posts were gone. All trace of him was gone. So immediately I thought, well, maybe somebody's bought his silence. Maybe he's seen the error of his ways, or maybe something more sinister has happened. And then just as I was mulling all of that over, he came back. It turns out that I think by all accounts, LinkedIn had banned him temporarily because they considered some of what he was saying was bordering on the libelous or the slanderous, but they looked at it more closely and they decided it was worth saying. So they brought him back. So I've done a morning monologue today, not a morning monologue, I've done a piece today over on Demolition Insider, which is called When the Whistleblower Stopped Blowing. It's only temporary. It was only for about, well, as far as I know, it's for a few hours. But I do wonder if the entire industry just went, before going, oh, blimey, he's back again. So that's what that article is about. As I say, it's already generated a couple of new paid subscribers, which I'm always grateful to see. So yes, lack of vision. Lack of vision. And one of the things that struck me when I was writing that was this is not unique, I don't think. It's not unique to the industry. Think about leadership in its truest sense. You know, we currently have running our country Sir Keir Starmer. Regardless of your politics, regardless on what he inherited, regardless of all of this, you will have to think he's not a Winston Churchill, is he? He's not. I mean, he's not a Tony Blair, and he wasn't without his faults. He wasn't a Margaret Thatcher. Again, deeply flawed, but you'd have to say, regardless of your politics, you'd have to say a leader, a proper leader. Look at the States. Donald Trump is many things, but one thing that he is not is a JFK. He's not an Obama. He's none of those things. And I wonder if we've lost the ability to create leaders. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder if we now live in an age where we are so desperate to not upset the apple cart, to not stand out from the crowd, to not shout and stamp our feet about injustice or that which we believe to be wrong, that we've actually lost the ability to generate actual leaders. Leaders that will stand up and be counted, leaders that will quite happily stand on at the pulpit and say, this is wrong, or this is the way we're going to go. Using Trump as an example, I think what he has built himself is a cult, but I don't believe that makes him a leader, because I mean, ultimately, he is a very, very divisive character. Who are our leaders? Who, in all walks of life, who are our leaders? Peter just said, I think government has watered down our prime ministers. Yeah, I agree. And I do wonder if it is, it's not just, the need to keep on the right side of the media and the right side of the general public. I wonder if we are now so run by committee that nobody is able to stand out. I mean, if Keir Starmer today, if he woke up this morning, I'm sure he's awake already, but if he woke up this morning and had been, he'd had an epiphany, he'd come up with something that would, I don't know, recreate the NHS to the benefit of the entire country, including the doctors and nurses that work within it, that wouldn't cost them any more money. It wouldn't increase taxation, but it would revolutionize the whole of the NHS. You'd like to think that he could take that to the House of Commons and say, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of where you're sat in this house, I've had an epiphany, and I can personally, single-handedly mend the NHS. Because full well that everybody opposing him on the other side of the house would oppose him regardless, because that's what they're there to do. Probably some in his own party would rebel against him because that would give them their 15 minutes in the spotlight, and so on down the line. And I do wonder if we have exactly the same thing in trade associations, for example. Even if you come along with an idea or a concept that will redraw the rules of demolition, construction, plant hire, whatever the hell it is, you could redraw it, but you've then got to get it past a committee. A committee sometimes of fuddy-duddies that go, oh no, wouldn't have worked in my day. And newcomers that go, no, don't fancy that. So all of a sudden you started out with this grand plan, this huge idea, this game-changing idea. And by the time it's had its edges knocked off by the naysayers and the stick in the muds and everybody else, your fantastic idea is basically fluff. That's my concern. Our government's gone woke and soft. Wouldn't argue with that. And I thought the Star was the new car from Kia that does U-turns at every T-junction. I think that could be right. Get rid of half the bigwigs in the NHS and it will save them billions. I get the impression that a lot of I'm not calling for a revolution, although if there were one to take place, I would probably join in. I think one of the problems that we have as a society, but also as industry sectors and everything else, is I think somewhere along the line we've lost sight of who works for whom. Like Donald Trump, claiming the glory for anything good that's happened in the last 6 months, which is not much, and blaming everything else on his predecessor or predecessors, plural. I think those that run the UK government, the American government, those that run Build UK, the NFDC, Construction Plant Hire Association, need a reminder that they are there to serve us. I mean, I'm not a demolition contractor, I'm not a plant hire, I'm not a construction company, but to serve the industry that they purport to serve. They're not there to win OBEs for their founders or for their presidents or their chairman. They're not there to generate income. They are there to drive the greater good of the industry that they were created to serve. And somewhere along the line, we've lost sight of that. And I would say exactly the same at government level. Keir Starmer, for all his listen, the guy is clearly a smart guy. He's come through the legal ranks and everything else. Now runs the country. He's clearly a smart guy. But one thing that he has forgotten is he is not my boss. I am his boss. You're his boss. He is answerable to each and every one of us, and that's been lost along the lines. We'll have to get his account off you, Mark. Then I'll take a look at. I'll message you on WhatsApp. Not a problem at all, Peter. To be honest, I've been very careful. I haven't actually named the whistleblower. I mean, I don't want to get dragged into the whole morass of what's going on with this whistleblower. He has a lot to say, but thus far he has offered no substantial proof that what he is saying is actually for real. He might just be lashing out at, he might be a disgruntled former employee that's lashing out against his former employers or against the industry that has done him dirty in some way. So I can't, which is why I've taken a bit of a step back. All I'm reporting on at the moment is the fact that the whistleblower exists. So again, I've not named him. It's out there. Peter, I will drop your line after the show. Not a problem at all. I don't know. He claims, just for the record, he claims that the CMA are watching what he's doing. In some ways, if there's any validity to what he's saying, I'd like to think that they are. Because, surely this industry would be better if everyone was playing on a level playing field rather than some people having certain advantages that they've kind of drawn up together. Dan says it's the same as Thames Water. They need to get rid of the money-grabbing CEOs to make the company better. Yeah, have you seen this? What was it? They're going to halve the amount of sewage being pumped into our waterways by 2030. How about stopping it tomorrow? Better still, stopping it this afternoon. They've got enough money. we've proved over the years. You know, listen, I come at this from a very specific standpoint. I am I've not been this year, but I'm a very keen fisherman. When I first started fishing with my dad, the Thames basically was toxic. There were fish in there, but they were in a horrible bloody state. And I mean, I don't eat what I catch anyway, but you certainly you wouldn't have wanted to eat them because they'd been in toxic water, basically. But then the country and the water companies got their heads together to the point where the water was so clean that you could actually catch salmon and trout in the Thames. And salmon and trout are very, very, they are very sort of clean. If the water's dirty, and toxic, they will not be there. And we had a resurgence of salmon and trout in the Thames. They've gone. They are the canary in the coal mine. There is a sign. If they're not there anymore, it's because the river is filthy. There was a time, back when I was early 20s, I guess. We used to go night fishing, and in the morning, you'd wake up having slept out under a tent for, the last 5 or 6 hours in the middle of the summer, so you were sweaty and horrible. What did you do? Stripped off, jumped in the river. Lovely and refreshing, and no issue about encountering sewage while you were swimming about in the Thames. I wouldn't do it today. I wouldn't let my grandchildren go in the Thames today. They are a national disgrace and looking for investors. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I could bore for England on the subject of renationalisation. The moment that you put the running of something like the energy companies, gas, electricity, nuclear, and all those sort of things, but also things like the water companies as well. The moment you put those in commercial hands, the person or the persons they are seeking to serve changes. If it's nationalised, they are there for the greater good, for the nation, for society, to keep prices down, to keep people's lights on, to keep their water clean and everything else. The moment that you switch that into commercial hands, private hands, the main objective is profit. And that profit, either for the CEO, the board, or more specifically for the shareholders, that takes precedence over clean water, low-cost energy. See, they're now saying nuclear is no longer a green energy. Was it ever? I mean, I must admit, I'm more of a believer in nuclear than perhaps some. But it does have one hell of a hangover. You can create lots of, energy and stuff using a nuclear power station. But what you end up with as the baggage that goes with that, i.e. the nuclear waste, what are you going to do with it? Fire it off into space and let aliens deal with it? Bury it deep in the ground and hope that it doesn't make its way through some fissure in the land? Not great. Government is cutting back on investment. Let's be honest. Government is cutting back on investment in pretty damn near everything, isn't it? It really is. Anyway, people, now I did touch on the subject of our friend, the whistleblower, and Peter, I won't forget, I will send you the details in just a moment. I've actually started work. I got into the office a bit early today, and I had the Today Show put together rather earlier than I normally do. So I've actually started work on possibly tomorrow's morning monologue. I'm not entirely sure it will be that, but it's actually called The Anatomy of a Whistleblower. If you fancy a bit of that, talking about what makes a person a whistleblower, would you ever be one, and that kind of thing, that may be on the show tomorrow. I can't guarantee it. I've not started. I'm not beyond about the first paragraph. I'm not entirely sure if there's enough there to say, but if there is, I will write it and then I'll show it to you. Dan says, have a great day, guys. Stay safe, guys, and be happy. Yes, don't worry, be happy. I'll be back tomorrow for Get More of the Same, 10 a.m. As I say, 4 more shows and then nothing, although I am working on that. So keep an eye on this space, and I'll be back tomorrow. Till then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. See you soon.